Let me ask you, has there been some things that happened in your journey that you just felt like, God, why is this happening? And it did make sense at the time, but later on it did make sense?
Yeah, from the beginning, as I was getting ready to go into North Korea for missions, we had the GTR ban that happened.
Global travel restriction?
Yes. So when the travel restriction was enforced was just about a year before I was sent off. So from the get-go, from the getting ready part, it did not make sense, like how this would happen at this time, right? As I was getting ready to go. That was something I didn't understand. And going to North Korea through China was something I never expected as well. And let alone just studying Chinese. I think that was the biggest curveball I had, because going into the mission field, specifically for North Korea, you would imagine that Korean would be the language that you would focus on, like to study, right? But in my case, when I went to register for Korean, the school had told me that there's no Korean classes available because it didn't have enough people to study Korean. So they put me in Chinese, which was like my biggest nightmare at the moment. I was like, I have not prepared mentally, emotionally, or anything at all to do Chinese. So definitely that was the biggest what is going on for me.
So just to clarify, I guess for the audience that are listening, in 2017 there was a law that America passed of a GTR, global travel restriction, by President Trump that forbidded U.S. citizens to go into North Korea. So that you're saying that while you're out in China, you need to speak and learn Korean, but you had to now learn to speak Chinese because also the university didn't have enough Korean students, right?
Precisely. The university didn't have foreigners who were signed up to learn Korean.
Right, okay. So that's why you had to learn another language besides the language you were learning. Okay.
Precisely, yes.
So that was very difficult, and you didn't really see why that was happening.
Yes, it was so difficult. I definitely ended up getting a lot of illnesses, just from stress, just not understanding the language or having no background on Chinese at all. But I think seeing it now, like about 2 years later, like I can see why the Lord led me to that.
Okay, why do you think He led you to that?
Well, precisely for during that time, my class was quite small, but in that classroom, it was myself being the only American there. There were some South Korean students and some Mongolian students, but in that small group that we also had about 6 North Koreans. And in my class at that time, there was 3 North Koreans. And as the year went by, I kept having more classes with more North Koreans. So when I couldn't go physically to North Korea and live there and do ministry there, like the Lord brought North Koreans into this small room.
Wow.
So they just stuck with me.
So I guess it did make sense why you're studying Chinese, but God was orchestrating that so that you can meet North Korean people a lot more in an intimate, small basis where you could have general interaction with them.
Yes.
Wow. That is a wonderful story. Can you just share, I think, just, 1 or 2 interactions that you felt was really neat that you think would, benefit us?
Yes. I think one of the factors of doing ministry in North Korea is that there's a limit to how deep you can do this relationship with the North Koreans if you're working alongside or even living within the same neighborhood or whatnot. There's a limit to how much you can do because there's ice literally everywhere, and there needs to be a lot of time, right? That you need to invest in trust to then have these deep relationships. But because my classmates were brought out of North Korea and they were in China, we were studying together, that distance was already broken. And in a particular sense, there was a young girl, a young sister, that she was even more of a special case than the other exchange students from North Korea. And it was that she was given more freedom because of her family status. And due to that, she didn't have to congregate with the other North Korean students, so she would stay behind. And gradually, we just started having more deep conversations, having meals together, and just having alone time, where that's something that it's unheard of to do in a couple of months, right? That's right. So being able to just share meals together so intimately, and even going to the movies together. Like I would have not imagined being able to watch a movie with a North Korean sister in China, let alone. So I think that specific relationship was so precious because we became so close in less than 3 months, and it's unheard of, I think, in at least.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, great.